the places where Jesus was along the shore of Galilee. Amir wants to read a story called Two Seas in Palestine, which is very interesting. And I want to tell you about the night that I went fishing all night on the Sea of Galilee. It's one of those experiences I'll never forget. So I'll start by telling you that. When I came here with my kids one time, we got up at 5 in the morning and we went out to the little port where the fishermen were coming in. And I was watching them come into their boats and take their nets out and start sorting the fish into different crates. And I started asking him lots of questions. And he's answering very politely, and then I could tell he was getting a little exasperated because I had so many questions. Everything I could think about in the Bible that talked about fish, I was asking him about. Why do you fish at night? What kind of fish are they? You know, all these, do you ever find one with a coin in his mouth? You know, these kind of things. And then he says, you ask too many questions. He says, why don't you just come with me tonight and I'll tell you everything you can see for yourself. What would you have said?
Oh, yeah.
Said, oh, man, I'm going. So, at night at 6 o'clock, he should have told me to bring Dramamine. He didn't. But I went down there, got on his boat, and we took off into the Sea of Galilee for the night of fishing. That was an experience I'll never forget. Not only the fun of fishing, but the agony of seasickness. I was miserable. I wanted to get out and walk on the water and go to the shore. I wouldn't have. I said, it was terrible. But anyway, I enjoyed the trip. We took off from Afghanistan, where we are staying now, and we're going in the same direction in this little fishing boat, about the same size as the one we just saw, the ancient boat. There's only room for two, so I was the third wheel. I was sitting on the bow. And off we took off out towards the north tip of the sea where they fish, because most of the fish are up along that northern coast there. So they're talking in Hebrew, and then they set their nets the first thing, they set them all up. The nets, by the way, are 1 meter long, that's about a half a mile. And they have 1 kilometer. This is why Janet sits in the front row. 1 kilometer the nets, and each end has a kerosene lantern, red kerosene lantern, so they know where the end of the net is. Once they got the net set in a big semicircle, they took off up into the Jordan River where it comes into the Sea of Galilee. They tied their boats to the bushes, they got out their tomatoes and hummus and pita bread, they made their Turkish coffee, and they started eating dinner while they're waiting for the sun to set. You see, the fish can see the net in the daylight. That's why they fish at night, because then the fish cannot see the net and they'll go in. So they know there's no sense in doing this when the sun is still up. So we pull into this, up into the Jordan River, and they're eating their food, and one guy, you know, they pick branches off the bushes and use them for toothpicks. And they're yelling at each other in Hebrew, back and forth to the boats, and all of a sudden I realized I'm out here on the sea with Peter, Andrew, James, and John. There was about 5 different boats, and they're all yelling to each other. Is it going to be a good night tonight? I don't know, the moon is too high, maybe not fish, you'll see the net here. They're yelling, because I kept saying, what are you saying? What are you saying? And then he'd have to translate it into English. If you want to see him, by the way, we interview him on this boat in our Peter movie. We have an interview. His name is Shimi Cohen, and his partner Udi. So then we came back out onto the sea after the sun went down, and the moon was rising, and it was glistening across the water, and we're out in the boat, and I'm thinking to myself, what would I think if I saw a man walking on the water in the moonlight towards this boat in the middle of it? What would I have thought? I don't know what I would have thought. And then they gave me a toilet plunger. And they say, your job is to use the toilet plunger. I said, what do we do with this out here? He says, you need to go kerpush, kerpush in the water with this to scare the fish. We're going to go into the opening in the semicircle of the nets, and I want you to go kerpush, kerpush, and it'll scare the fish away, and they will swim into the nets. So I had a hammer in one hand and a toilet plunger in the other. I have to bang on the side of the boat, bang, 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 kerpush, kerpush, and the fish, then they swim out. And by the way, this is the kind of boat I was in right over there. This is kind of nice. You get to see a real fishing boat. This is what people use now to fish on the Sea of Galilee. I arranged for him to be there for you.
Yeah.
So we were out fishing all night, and we pulled in the nets. The way they did it is they pull the nets in, and the fish would be stuck in the nets. There was a lot of different kind of fish. The main fish that are in the sea are called amnon. They're a tilapia fish. You're going to eat them for lunch today. They're called St. Peter's fish for the tourists, but in Hebrew they're amnun, A-M-N-U-N. They're the most common fish in the sea. There goes Peter. He's going to meet up with the sons of Zebedee. Just like the fish.
With the boat. Wait, let me pull it out here. There we go.
So,
wait, did I get it between you guys?
Well, you don't have any place to put the fish. You just throw them in the bottom of the boat. So by the end of the night, I'm up to my knees in fish. I smelled like this for a week. And then I realized this is the kind of men Jesus chose to be his disciples. I would not have chose men like this to begin my church. If you think you want your church to be a big organization, 1 billion people strong someday, you don't think about getting fishermen who smell like fish, not like books. I'd pick guys like Dr. Hahn if I was going to start a church. You know, people know these things. What does he do? He comes out here and he picks fishermen who smell like fish and sweat. So he finally pulls a big catfish off the net. A huge catfish. Now I'm from Detroit, and I'll tell you, you get $100 for that catfish in Detroit. He took the catfish by the tail, he went over to the side of the ship, and he went bam, bam, bam. He just beat the thing to pulp and was all bloody mess, threw it back into the water. I said, why did you do that? You can make good money on this fish. He says, not in Israel. He said it's against the law. You have to have fish with scales and fins, and a catfish has no scales. It's a pig fish. We don't want them in our sea. So I said to him, why do you fish at night? Because the Amnon fish is very smart. They have good eyes. They see the net in the daytime. And then you think of Jesus coming on the shore, Peter out, experienced fisherman, knowing you can't see, that you have to fish at night. They didn't catch anything at night, and now the sun comes up, and Jesus says, cast your net out and you'll catch the fish. I would have said, are you crazy? Who are you, some crazy carpenter telling me my job? The fish will see the net, they won't come. Jesus said, Peter obeys him, and he catches 153 fish. I asked him about the waves. I said, it says in the Bible there's big waves. Overturned boats, a big problem. Storms on the sea. This sea is only 13 miles long and 7 miles across at the widest. It's a very small sea. Like Janet said, the first time we came around the corner and saw it for the first time in our life, we're from Michigan with big Lake Michigan. It's huge. Superior is like a small ocean. And we came around the corner up on the hill there, and Janet looked down at the Sea of Galilee and she said, that's no sea, that's a wimpy pond. Very small. But I asked the fisherman that night, tell me about the waves. Are there ever waves? He said, he says, in the winter time they get to be 9 meters. What's this? 3-4 meters, which means 9 to 12 feet waves. He says, sometimes my friends come and they start fishing, the waves come. Before they get to the shore over here, they end up over there. Because the waves blow them over there. We saw a movie of the waves at a hotel that we stay at sometimes in Tiberias, and the waves were crashing up into the restaurant. And they had to actually spend a week close the whole hotel while they brought shovels and equipment to scoop the mud out of the first floor of the hotel and the restaurant, because the waves are so big they're crashing up onto the first floor.